Ohio. Umeå, the city in northern Sweden, the administrative center Lena Västerbotten and the commune of the same name. The population minus 115.0 thousand inhabitants. 2010. From them about a third students. In the city the largest university in northern Sweden works. At the university the hospital works. Umeå is the center of medical researches in Sweden. Umeå is one of the cultural capitals of Europe for 2014. The first mention of the city is dated 1314. The 14th century is time of active expansion of Sweden for the north. Initially the city represented small arrival which center with wooden church, the market and port was located around modern Backen. In the 15th century influence of Sweden on lands of modern Västerbotten considerably increases. In 1443 there are first mentions of the villages of Savara and Taftio, which are now as a part of the commune of Umeå. In 1501-1508 instead of wooden church stone is constructed. And in 1526 the community accepts Protestantism after the Lutheran Bo Warnick song becomes her pastor. In 1588 according to instructions of the King Håkon III the first charter of the city was made. Håkon wanted to strengthen control over trade with northern regions of the country, therefore intended to move all merchants from communities of Umeå, Biadio, Lavonger, and Skellefteå to the new city which had to grow around church on the Mälven River. However, interest in this undertaking quickly cooled down, and the city disappeared in the 1590th years. The new city charter was adopted only in 1622. This year is considered date of foundation of the new city. In 1638 a Flax Västerbotten which except Umeå, they become Centerlina, included about 40 more city settlements was formed. In 1652 in the city the first school appeared. Umeå by this moment was inhabited by about 200 people. In the city there were 2 long, narrow streets and several small lanes. The city surrounded a fence with 3 entrances on which taxes for the taken goods were levied. Because of the remote arrangement the city often became a subject of aggression of the Swedish enemies. In 1720, at the end of Great Northern War, the city was occupied by a landing of the Russian seamen and reduced to ashes. In 1723 the city was visited by Carl Linné who described them as the small town which is still not restored after damage caused by fire during war when he was completely burned. In 1735 in the city there was the first drugstore. And in 1764 in the city the first in the top Norrland hospital is constructed. By 1740 Falls to Västerbotten share 10% of export of the Swedish tar and 100% of wood processing. During the Finnish War in Umeå patients and wounded referred. In the city and neighboring villages not less than 300 soldiers settled down. In the city there wasn't enough food and epidemics raged. In March 1809 the Russian troops approached the city on ice of the Gulf of Bothnia through the passage Kharkin. The commandant of the city, having been surprised to the fact of transition of troops through the Gulf of Bothnia, I hurried to hand over the city without fight. The Russian troops under Barclay de Tolly's command were freely included into the city. Troops, however, left the city in several days of occupation because of the incoming peace talks. However, signing of the peace agreement dragged on, and in May the Russian army began new approach in the north of Sweden. On June 1, troops are included into Umeå again. In July there is their collision with Swedes near Hirnfors. As a result, the Swedish troops are forced to recede to the south. In August 7,500 Russian soldiers under command of the General Kamensk moved forward from Umeå and towards through the village of Rotten. The outnumbering groups of the Swedish army under leadership of the General Gustav Wachtmeister were sent. Fight of two armies happened on August 19 to the district of the village of Sever. By her results, Swedes were forced to recede, and next day were attacked by Russians already under the village of Rotten. These fights, which became history as Fight at Rotten and Sever, became the last on the Swedish earth in that war. The Russian troops left Umeå already on August 23, having problems with receiving deliveries of food and arms. However, under the terms of the made Russian-Swedish peace, Russia all the same received control over Finland, and Umeå lost commercial relations with the Finnish Österbotten, including Vasa. In 1810 in the city the first trivium school appears, in which there was a training in 3 objects: to grammar, logic and rhetoric. In 1813 in the district of the city the first sawing plant, which was located in Bagdalaforsen, is constructed. Over time it became the large Lesprozvodsveni enterprise. In 1820, 1258 inhabitants lived in the city already. In the 1840th years the first steam sawmills appear. It became big technological break, having allowed to create an Umeå own merchant marine fleet with shipyard around the type. In 1841 there is the first city newspaper Umeåbladet, existing still. In 1857 in Umeå the first cable line was stretched. In 1858 the royal decree in the city creates the first high comprehensive school. By this time the number of urban population exceeded a mark in 2,500 people. In 1863 the first bridge through the river, known as Stary Bridge, is built now. Journey through the bridge long time was paid. In the 1880th years to the place of the sailing ships steamships come. In this regard demand for the wood, which was the main source of income of the city, falls. Industrialization of the city begins. On June 25, 1888 the fire which began in brewery destroyed all east part of the city, including shipyard in the type. About 2,300 of 1,300 residents remained homeless. During reconstruction after the fire, wide boulevards were built and birches are planted. These measures were directed to that fire in case of the new fires couldn't be thrown from one house on another. Shortly the city became known in Sweden as the City of Birches. During restoration of the city, instead of the town hall which burned down during the fire, the new town hall of Umeå in style of the Dutch Renaissance was built. In 1892 Umeå became the 4th city in Sweden with electric lighting of streets. In the beginning electricity was delivered by the steam power plants using firewood, but in 1899 the hydroelectric power station in Klabyvalfossen, which began to supply the city with energy, was constructed. In 1896 the railroad which connected the city with the settlement of Vens was constructed. The population of the city continuously grows and in the first decade of the 20th century exceeds a mark in 5,000 inhabitants. In 1917 in the city there is a social democratic newspaper, Västerbottens Folkblad, the national newspaper Västerbottena, which was engaged in fight against high prices and a low wage. Shortly she received a nickname of the Bolshevist newspaper from extremely conservative magazine Umeå. In 1929 in the city there begins the activity the inventor and the businessman Carl Eosten Neuström. It developed the first ever steel body for cars. This production was completely redeemed later by the Volvo concern, which became for many years the chief employer in the city. In 1948 sea communications with the Finnish city of Vasa were resumed. In 1949 Tegsbrun Bridge was built. In the 1940th years the idea to make Umeå the university city was put forward. This issue was discussed within several years in the Swedish government. In 1951 in the city the biggest begins to be created in Sweden, the academic library, in which copies of all materials which are printed in the country gathered. In 1956 in Umeå the first academic educational institution, dental school, appears. From this point increase in number of colleges begins. In 1957 the Central District Hospital of Norrland is created. In 1959 on its basis teaching medicine begins. In 1962 the College of Social Work appears. On July 1, 1963 the city was officially given the status of university. And at last, the University of Umeå was opened on September 17, 1965. In 1967 in its structure the College of Training of Teachers was created. And by 1969 the university contained already 5 faculties. In 1958 the new hydroelectric power station which received the name Sternorfors was constructed. In 1962 the airport of Umeå opened. In 1965 the number of Umeå together with suburbs and nearby villages was 47250 inhabitants. In 1966 the number of municipality of Umeå exceeded 50,000 people. In 1974 Hirnfors, Sever, and Holmén were attached to the city Holmsund. Total number of the city was 73977 inhabitants. Same year the opera was opened, well-known Norrland. In 1975 through the river after long discussion the third bridge, Kyrkbrun, was built. Esja Oden Bridge, Obelabrun, appeared in 1989. In 1987 the full reconstruction of all central squares and streets in the center of Umeå, which cost the city hundreds of millions Swedish kronor, was carried out. In 1992 Umeå on population overtakes Sundsvall and becomes the largest city in Norrland. In 1995 the population exceeds a mark in card people. Umeå is one of 134 cities of Sweden having the historical status. In 2010 the movement on the high-speed railway line of Botniabanan which connected Umeå to Örnsköldsvik and Kramfors is opened. and further with the central regions of the country. Then design of a branch of Norbitnaiban in Tululia began. His city was founded in 1622, and his first known coat of arms representing 3 heads of reindeers appeared in 1642. This coat of arms was approved as official in 1646 by the decision of the King of Sweden. Subsequently, appearance and arrangement of the heads on the coat of arms changed, but their number remained 2 constants. Geography and climate. The city is located on the Umeå River near the place of her confluence with the Gulf of Bothnia. Near the city many lakes are located. The largest of them, Nudelachen and Grecian, and also the Gulf Estafirden. In 2021, the European Agency on the Environment declared that in this city the cleanest air in EC content of particles is 3.7 micrograms on cubic meter of air. Limit in the European Union -25. Culture. Umeå is the cultural center of northern Sweden. In Umeå, the Theatre of the Opera of northern Sweden, Norrland the Opera, is located. The annual Jazz Umeå Festival is one of the largest festivals of modern jazz in Sweden. Umeå is also the homeland world-famous refused group hardcore punk and also many metal groups such as Meshuggah, Cult of Luna, Nightbuffer and Nocturnal Rites. In Umeå several museums are located. Museum of Local Lore of Västerbotten, Museum of the City of Umeå, Museum of Visual Art, Museum of Guitars and Museum of Ski Sports. In 1990 in the city Bulato Kudzava performed with a concert. Umeå, the multicultural city. Construction of the most northern of the mosque is planned for today in east part of Umeå. However, for various reasons, didn't reach construction yet. However, it is less Muslims in the city than in some other the Swedish cities where the set of mosques is already built. Now construction of the mosque is suspended. The city was chosen as the cultural capital of Europe for 2014. Year of the Cultural Capital of Europe opened in the city on January 31. Within a year more than 300 concerts, exhibitions and art projects will be held. A considerable part of actions will be devoted to Sami and their culture. Sport. Umeå, the hometown of the women's soccer team Umeå, once one of the strongest teams in the world which won many national and European titles in the old years. The best men's soccer team Umeå VF acts in Superettan of the Swedish Championship, being the second most powerful division in the Swedish men's soccer at present. In the city are also available men's ice hockey team Björklöven acting in Allsvenskan, the second most powerful league of Sweden, and floorball club Dalen, acting in the Swedish Super League. One of the longest streets in the city, Storgatan, has length about 4 km, passes by the main districts of the city on north side of the Umeå River. On Storgatan, a number of historical buildings of municipality of Umeå and 5 main parks of the city is located. Monuments of architecture and site. Old Prison. City Church of Umeå. Old House of Bank. Port Warehouse. Villa Sharinska. Economy. The main direction of research is at the University of Umeå are biological and medical sciences. In particular cellular and molecular plant biology, ecology and some other. The University of Umeå cooperates with a number of the Swedish companies such as ABB, Volvo, Skanska, Ericsson and Orlings Presswoopers. In the city, one of the enterprises, Volvo's trucks, for production of cabins of trucks is located. About 2,000 working are engaged at them. Also here the European headquarters of Komatsu Forest is located. In the suburb of the city, the port on the Baltic Sea to which ferries of Umeå, Vasa make regular flights is located. In the city, key highways of northern Sweden are also crossed. The railway road from the southern Sweden approaches, and 4 kilometers to the south from the city the airport of Umeå is located. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.